All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to point out a couple of really interesting factoids that we found on the internet that have to do with one Elizabeth Warren. Cody, tell us what's going on.
All right, how's one way of putting it? I believe it was last night. I saw a tweet today. It came about 7 p.m. last night. A lot of you guys may be the same thing. The Elizabeth Warren campaign account tweeted out this quite frankly, kind of bizarre video. And that's what kind of led us to making this video. I'm going to show it for you guys right now. Tell me if you guys can kind of pick up on what the message they were going for here was. I think I get like the headline. I'll just roll it. I'll roll it and you guys tell me after.
Here we go. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, Senator Warren. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is David 50.
David?
David 50.
Okay, David 50.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
I'm a PhD candidate
Woohoo!
and teaching assistant here in the mathematics department at
Whoa,
UNH.
math! Wow.
I was really
okay.
excited to hear that you
like
loved
talking
math.
to a
I
kid.
do.
Wow.
I do. In fact, I
Wow.
want you to do this. Go to my website, look at our plans, and add up the math.
Oh,
it
she didn't even let him say
actually
what he wanted to
adds
say.
up. It's amazing. I had a math teacher come up to me in Milwaukee and say, I just want you to know I went to your website, checked out all your numbers. They checked out. So, good.
Now, okay, a couple things I want to point out from this and again explain why.
Can I say one thing, Cody?
Well, really quickly, I want to get a few things out of the way before just. She does go on to answer the question the gentleman does ask and pulled up the full
No,
clip,
this is nothing
and it's not
factual.
very interesting. Okay.
I just want to point out the first thing that came to my mind as she was talking was that her personality, demeanor, and body language was exactly like the Spider-Man clown that I had just hired for my son's birthday. The way she was talking to that guy, like, oh, hi, how are you?
Well, here's the bigger thing. When she,
I just hired a birthday party, like,
Yeah.
superhero that talked the exact same way
well,
to my 5-year-old kid.
my point being, I want to show you is if you would talk that way to an adult, a PhD candidate, do you think something akin to this would be their response? This is again, this. I know I'm not just trying to. Again, there is a point to this. We're gonna get to it, but I just wanted to highlight like I didn't fully understand what the message of that tweet. Because again, maybe I'm not showing this properly on the screen so you could see it. This was posted by the Elizabeth Warren verified campaign. Like she posted this weird cut up clip. Again, I pulled up the full video. He asked her a question about gun control. She actually gives I didn't agree with it, but she gave a pretty good answer. The answer she gave on gun control, she actually did this really nice thing where she walked through kind of how over the years we reduced deaths on the highways and said maybe we can use that as a model moving forward. Like that's actually a good answer. Why highlight that? And why not highlight that? And why highlight this really confused gentleman looking at this old woman on stage going back and forth about how much she loves math and yay math? And I even talked to a math teacher once. She's like, I'm a PhD candidate. Like, what are you talking about? Can you answer my question, please? This is the face you give when you're looking at someone like, what's going on? Which is the face I had watching it. Again, if someone cut this up to make Warren look bad, whatever, there's nothing here. But why is she posting this on her campaign? And again, it led me thinking something. Well, the math checks out on her website. Now, is there an equation somewhere? Is there some formula on her website somewhere? Like, do the formula. Wow, Warren's right. This is the formula. Now, I went through some parts of her website. One thing I want to pull up, and Elizabeth Warren's great at the political speak. She's a great politician in that way. But I don't know if she's talking about something like this. This is from her ultra-millionaire tax. She says, this small tax on roughly 75,000 households will bring in $2.75 trillion in revenue over a 10-year period. The small tax she's talking about is her ultra-millionaire tax, which would only come in if you're making more than $50 million, and then it would be a couple percent, but it would be on wealth. So, first of all, if that's the kind of math she's talking about, okay, but that led me into another thing. No one actually ever challenges her on the math on the ultra-wealth tax for the most part. You know what they challenge her on the ultra-wealth tax? What? But no, what I'm saying is when Elizabeth Warren gets pushed, is it your numbers don't add up, or is it can we do this and why aren't you telling us the plan? I'm sorry, I don't have to pull it up.
Yeah,
but I
like
pull
for
up
example, you could say, well, we could get rid of a lot of malaria if we just killed every immigrant that came through our airports that had over 106
That's a bit crazy.
degree heat. No, I shouldn't say malaria, Ebola or whatever. You know, like there's all kinds of ideas you can have where the math adds up. You know, we'd save hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, if we just euthanized all the people over 75 who are in our hospitals that were with terminal illnesses and dying. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of really morally incorrect ideas that add up when it comes to the math, but there's a question of how you going to implement that. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, is that really what you want? It's like Beto O'Rourke with his guns. Sure, fine. He can say, oh, the math adds up. We just need to pass a law that confiscates all these guns, you know, and then there will be no more guns. Okay, cool. Yeah, you're right. That math adds up. But as Julian Castro says, Beto, what are you going to do? Send it to a bunch of minority communities that already have bad relationships with the cops, a bunch of cops to take the few guns away that they have? You know, this is literally Elizabeth Warren's gun confiscation policy.
Yeah.
It's bad
hold
idea
on, but
morally that adds up mathematically.
There's some more stuff I want to get
Okay.
to because I want to get, like I said, this isn't to get lost, but what I wanted to just highlight here is I was confused by why they put that on her account. Like, why did they put that out there? Are they trying to say that?
Yeah, it wasn't very flattering.
But here's the thing. There is some people who talk about numbers with Elizabeth Warren, but I want to bring this up. This is the criticism she gets, and she's running a primary right now. She's not, I guess maybe proving the conservatives are wrong. It's taking a while to load. I'll just read the quotes from you.
Okay.
This is when Elizabeth Warren went on the Colbert Show a few weeks ago.
Oh, that sounds like it was a riot.
Well, no, but look what Stephen Colbert's saying to her. He says, you keep being asked in the debates, how are you going to pay for it? Are you going to raise the middle class taxes?
Oh, yeah, this
How
is
are you going to
royal.
pay for
I loved
it?
it.
Are you going to raise the middle class taxes? So here's the thing. We're going to do this. Costs are going to go up for the wealthiest Americans and for big corporations. Taxes which will be in those costs, Colbert interjects. She says, yeah, hardworking middle class families are going to see their costs go down. And Colbert interjects and says, well, their taxes go up. She goes, well, but there's this thing. And he said, no, but here's the thing. I've listened to his answers a few times before, and I just want to make a parallel suggestion for you about how you might defend the taxes. And he keeps going, but he's saying, why aren't you saying this? I couldn't find the exact video clip. I don't want to get this individual wrong. I think it was an individual from MSNBC or CBS. I think MSNBC, a very progressive left-wing individual, raising his voice at Elizabeth Warren, saying, like, will middle-class taxes go up? And she was refusing to respond. Now, it's really weird stuff, and I don't really fully understand where it's coming from for Elizabeth Warren, because she likes to fall back on this, but this is the one last thing I want to pull up really quickly to highlight this, is she keeps insisting that her numbers add up and that the numbers are good, but what she's getting pressed on. Here we go. I'm pulling up this article. This is from an article published in 538 titled Warren's Wealth Tax Isn't the Slam Dunk Progressives Want It to Be. And I get in the context of that question, she wasn't talking purely about her wealth tax, but it's a big platform she's rolling out. It's one of her plans. And you'll realize it's not the math that gets challenged. Here we go. This is something I want to read. This is from, again, 538, by no means some right-wing source.
Okay.
And she said, and the author writes, one central concern is that the rich, who are already good at evading taxes, would find new and creative ways to avoid paying taxes on their wealth. Part of the issue is that while income in certain kinds of wealth, like stocks, are easily verifiable, the value of a privately held company or a piece of art is genuinely hard to pin down, and the people targeted by the wealth tax also have the means to hire tax lawyers and accountants to sift through the law in search of loopholes. I think a wealth tax would certainly raise a significant amount of money, Holdspot said, but it will raise enough money to pay for everything that's been suggested. It's a question, and that's a much harder question to answer. Now, that's what one source said. I also pulled up Andrew Yang earlier this year when he was talking about it. It's an article in Vanity Fair. I believe it says in Good Luck America. And again, talking about Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax here, but this is one of the criticisms she needs to answer. And if you're going to post these weird tweets of you yaying math on your on your Twitter account instead of responding to a lot of things like, for example, this is what Andrew Yang brings up, a little extreme, but running against her, for full context. So, but if you put Warren's plan into effect, you'd see Americans would get divorced from their spouses so they'd get below the income threshold.
Yeah.
You'd see people in some cases even renouncing their citizenship because you have to ask
Because it already
yourself,
happened, and we talked about that on that show
If
with the
you're
guys
worth-
that IPO'd Facebook.
Oh yeah, but this is the one last thing I want to get into.
Okay.
And I believe Elizabeth Warren actually in her heart of hearts knows this a little bit. Article came out today from Business Insider. So we talk about the math checking out. I'll tell you what, Elizabeth Warren's ultra wealthy tax, it checks out real nice for her. Because even though she's worth $12 million, she'll be exempt from it. It's only worth people $50 million. I wonder why she picked $50 million. Why not 10? I would say $10 million net worth is pretty good. It's a pretty solid amount of money, wouldn't you? $10 million?
Are you kidding me? $10 million, you never have to work again.
Yeah, well, depending on you live, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But the point being, it is interesting.
We could blow through 10 million in
is
a night at the club, brother.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But people have tried. I think it's like a number you can get to. But anyway, this is a big thing I want to highlight too. Now, the interesting thing about this article is the headline makes it look like she's a hypocrite. oh, they're worth an estimated $12 million. Here's a look at their lifestyle and the real estate portfolio. For the most part, it actually paints a picture of just somebody who invested wisely and did pretty good for themselves over an extended period of time. She's written books. She's been in office. She was a professor. But here's something really interesting. A large portion of the $12 million net worth that her and her husband share come from this property that she purchased for $447,000 in 1995. And this is where people do start saying, well, Elizabeth Warren, does this math add up? Does the math add up that you should now be paying a tax every year on this $3.1 million asset that you spent $447,000 on? You have no interest in selling. It's her house. You live there. I'm sure they pay some kind of tax already on property and all that stuff. On top of that, for possessing this asset of yourself, which is worth an actually $3 million. But Elizabeth Warren, like, well, I didn't even spend $500,000 on it. How is it all of a sudden I have to pay $3 million on it for a year in tax? That is where people do challenge her on the math. So I just want to bring this video up. Again, it's the kind of thing where normally why would this even be talked about? Who cares, Elizabeth Warren? But here's the thing. When you post a video on your own Twitter account where this is the reaction, the person you're supposed to be like, I don't know, like, this is the guy who asked you a question, and this is the response he gives you. This confused look of what is this woman talking about right now? I'm calling into question the Warren campaign. Why are you not addressing the legitimate questions about implementing a wealth tax efficiently? Which, like I said, we'll just apply it to Elizabeth Warren. I don't think you should have to pay a tax on a $3.1 million house she spent $500,000 on 30 years ago. What? Doesn't make any sense. She lives there. Like she probably pays property tax. Why would they also have a wealth tax on it? Because here's the thing. You do a wealth audit on someone, I'm sorry, but owning a $3 million house in, where is it, Massachusetts? Yeah, Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm going to look at that. It's like, that's a pretty nice asset you got there, Miss Warren. I think we should, if you're going to tax wealth, I'd be taxing that from her. And I don't think she should be paying the tax she's proposing. Now, again, her and her husband make $12 million, not $50. And then just one last thing I want to highlight before I get back to you is, speaking of kind of the flub she's made on her social media, just questionable decisions, the reason why I'm showing you a screenshot of this tweet is because the tweet's been deleted. Because it was a now embarrassing video. A year ago, when they posted this and left it up, by the way, for exactly a year, they deleted it the 15th of October, it made sense. But then all of a sudden, making this video where you're spiking the football about how you actually are 1/1,000,000th Native American, maybe it made sense then, but just for context, she went on a massive apology tour about 4 months after this and said, I apologize for basically publishing this video. Now, after the apology tour, for another 9 months, it remained up on her social media accounts. I question do you think Elizabeth Warren seemingly not really having a great grasp of how they want to run her social media accounts? And again, I'm not going to say that it's the end of the world because she tweeted that one weird video. But if you just look at where she's doing in the polls, she's actually... There was a point, I don't know if you remember this, Card, and we were talking about a month ago, I believe, where Elizabeth Warren had finally surpassed Joe Biden in the polls. She had finally officially...
we remember that.
She officially had eclipsed him in the polls. If you look at what's happened since then, it hasn't been good, man. If you look at what happened since then, she's actually considerably... I mean, everyone's fallen, but she's fallen as well. I apologize. I can't bring up the app. I'm having some internet issues right now, but... It hasn't been great for the Warren campaign over the last little while. I would say being pushed on her wealth tax, seeing as that's how she's proposing on paying for a lot is her wealth tax. Well, she's getting a lot of pushback on that. And then in the midst of all this, to just tweet out this bizarre video, well, like I said, the individual in the video you're supposed to be speaking to can only give you a confused look of, excuse me, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I don't know, man. It's not a favorable look for the Elizabeth Warren campaign. I mean, like I said, I think this image is the best way to sum up this video of just like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah, bizarre. I think is really the key word because she's making. If Elizabeth Warren, really, if any of them in the top three, would just be as quiet as possible and as general as possible and just say, I think the wealthy should pay their fair share. Like, Democrats do really, really well. Even the social justice kind, the progressive kind, the far left, they do really, really well when they don't masquerade as such. You know what I'm saying? Like, the strategically, even if you did want to Trojan horse socialism into the American culture, it's already been Trojan horsed into. What am I talking about? But if I wanted to get into office as Elizabeth Warren, I would just keep it as general as possible, because the general population is not far left in the United States of America, but they've proven that they fall victim to certain sound bites very easily. You can take advantage of Americans' Christianity and generosity by packaging socialist proposals as generous or fair. Okay, Republicans have their own intellectual dishonesties. They package their draconian stuff as national security, for safety, and so on and so forth, right? So if Elizabeth Warren would just say, well, look, the wealthy are disproportionately advantaged in this country, and I think they need to pay their fair share, and my tax plan will make sure they do that, then she would go so much farther, just with that basic argument by keeping it general, than by going into these details that just really make you think, wait, what? Okay, wait. So you want a specific wealth tax over this amount of people? Okay. Even as somebody who doesn't have a personal accountant and a team of lawyers, I know, okay, well, instead of paying that 55% tax now, why don't I just cross the border and say that my house is now a rental and I live in Mexico most of the time?
How about this? Why don't you buy a painting? Why don't you buy a painting for $15 million and insist it no longer retained that value?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's
How about
true.
that?
That's a
really
huge
easy to
wealth.
do.
Yeah. The wealthy really avoid taxes big time through the purchase of fine arts and antiquities, where you can declare or not declare their worth. And the other problem is she's experiencing firsthand what Andrew Yang talks about being one of the predominant problems with a wealth tax, because he said, he used an example, I believe, of like libraries of music, right? Or maybe that was your example.
No, that was actually The Economist. I can't want to pronounce his name. We talked about in one of our other videos. Greg Mankiw, I believe.
Mankiw or whatever it was.
I know we're butchering it. He brought up the idea basically.
So how much are all the Beatles
Rihanna's
songs
worth a lot of
worth?
money, but she also has songs. How do we properly gauge with that wealth? I mean, again, there is some math you can push on, but a lot of it is more
so if I
implementation.
own, for example, a library of, you made this example, Cody, of all of Whitney Houston songs. Well, most years, maybe that might bring me $100,000 in BMI replays or whatever, But then she dies and they make a biopic of her, and there's an award-winning movie that's done in which Whitney Houston is played by, I don't know, Kate Hudson or something like that, okay?
That would be an interesting casting choice.
No. Who's the Hudson that's the... sorry, you're right. Not Kate Hudson.
Very interesting casting for
Yeah,
Whitney
no,
Houston.
not Kate Hudson. Who's the Hudson that's the singer? She's really pretty.
She was in Showgirls, right? I forgot.
Yeah.
Not Showgirls.
It's
She was
something
in the
else
other one.
Hudson.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Actually, is it? It's not Catherine Hudson. You got to look up Hudson.
I'm having
Anyway,
internet problems. But I know you're talking about.
let's say
I apologize.
Cardi B. We'll just say Cardi B. All right. So let's just say Cardi B ends up playing Whitney Houston. They make this biopic, and all of a sudden, everybody's having a Whitney revival, and boom, the value of my Whitney Houston library skyrockets to $3 or $4 million, right? Well, is it worth $3 or $4 million? Well, maybe that year, but the next year it's going back to only maybe worth $100,000. And half these values are just speculative anyway. Something's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. And Elizabeth Warren, she bought her house in Cambridge, Massachusetts back in the late 90s when real estate was cheap. It's quintupled in value. But at the end of the day, it is just her house. If it's got a $3 million value, just because a real estate agent says, I think I could sell this for $3 million, doesn't mean that she's got $3 million in the bank. She could be living to paycheck. I mean, how many people are there in my
she's a pretty
neighborhood?
smart woman. Invest pretty wisely, I believe. But
Yeah, but like there's tons of people in my neighborhood that bought their houses in the 80s and the 90s when they were having kids. 30 years later, sure, their house could sell for $1.2 million or something like that, but that ain't what they bought it for.
It's not in the bank. Right?
And trust me, the guy with his DWP retirement, the guy with his LAPD retirement that's sitting in this supposed $1.2 million
also
house
remember, they would not
doesn't
be-
got $1 million in the bank.
They'd be exempt. I mean, it targets people making $50 million or more. But that's why I
Okay,
thought
but
it's interesting to point out someone who's making. I mean, we're talking about in the millions of dollars here now. Like, people who are pretty wealthy and well off for themselves.
But if one of the most critical arguments for your flagship proposal on something, you are not living yourself, it's frustrating. Like Bernie Sanders, you notice how he no longer says it's the millionaires because he became a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Now he's upped his game to saying it's the billionaires.
Well,
you
no,
know,
but I guess I don't think
he
it-
used to rip on the 1% until he became one.
But they're not necessarily being hypocritical here. I just wanted to highlight that there's problems beyond the math people have with Elizabeth Warren. So if she's going to choose
Yeah,
some
it's the
weird
implementation.
But
she knows in her mind her wealth tax does not work. If implemented, the wealthy would get around it, and she's taken donations from these big corporate donors who would get around it, knowing full well that she's full of crap. And this is something she's saying to get poor people that are hoping for a better future to vote for her. This is intellectual dishonesty at its climax. She is smart enough to know this won't work, yet she is espousing this value anyway. That is the very definition of grifting.
Okay, I don't know. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I just think.
Do you think Elizabeth
I
Warren
think this
doesn't
is-
know that people can get out of this wealth
I
tax?
think that's a more appropriate response than table pounding here. I think it's weird. I don't know why she's talking about this stuff. I think it's just another weird move by her social media team. And I just wanted to bring up again that even if the math quote unquote checks out, there's a lot of problems aside from math people
So
have.
at
with it.
worst, at
So
Cardin's
it's just
worst,
weird. I don't get it.
At Cardin's worst, it's grifting. At Cody's best, it's weird and doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a poor choice.
Yeah, poor choice. It doesn't show to me that if all of a sudden let loose on the world stage to represent the greatest country in the world, the largest economy in the Western Hemisphere, and the single biggest military the world's seen in the past century, if she can't make basic wise choices on her campaign that make PhD students that actually like her kind of go, huh? What on earth makes you think she's going to steer the ship of the United States of American economy anywhere except for into Calypso's whirlpool? That's what I ask. Is that a bad question?
I think it's. I don't know. I wouldn't ask it.
Okay, fine. Well, here, let us know what you guys think. Because I don't know what to think, but we definitely thought this was weird. It put up all kinds of, not red flags, but yellow flags. What flag is the flag that you throw when you're just kind of like, huh? What flag is that, Cody? It's not a red flag.
There is no what flag. Red flag's the challenge flag. There is no what flag. It's just you just. I
It's
don't
the
know.
huh flag. The huh. The wrinkle your nose and go, huh flag.
Like I said, man, this is the best way to explain
Yeah.
it. Why would you post to this? It just didn't make any sense to me. Figure, why not take a look at her math? Again, we can take a look at all of her platforms, everything she talks about. I just wanted to highlight that one of her big platforms she talks about, the wealth tax, how she's going to implement and all that. There's a lot of questions that this bizarre video she posted doesn't answer. And I mean, if you're gonna leave up embarrassing things and not delete them for a year, and then embarrassingly leave it up, why delete it a year later? She deleted this embarrassing thing. It's just, who's running her social media? They need to do better. That's my point. They have to have a better social media team than this. This is not a good look for the Warren campaign, and it's, I think, one of the reasons why she was not able to correctly vote Biden in the polls.
All right. I agree. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you in the next video.